Hi Chris, how are you?
Good morning, Rod. Yes, I'm well. Here we are, episode 210, and it's the 1st of February, so we are 1/12 of the way through 26. And if you're like me, you're going, where's that first 12th gone? I don't think I've really achieved anything. I don't know about you, but maybe I'm speaking for me.
No, it's been a very rapid January, it must be said.
Yeah, unbelievably quick. And then weather-wise, we will just touch on the weather. Very soggy here, but I'm assuming it's the same with you, but we can't complain because I don't think we have it as bad as some who are really properly struggling with flooding and snow and everything happening around the world.
Yeah, the rest of the world has it worse than the UK. That is a fact. And, again, it's just weather. It's not climate change.
Global warming doesn't exist, right?
It doesn't exist. Nobody could possibly say that.
Let's move on before we get too political and get to follow up and talk tech.
Let's talk tech, which we'll try and do a decent amount of this week. So, first story, follow-up for Apple. Apple was fined $851 million last year for all of its privacy and antitrust violations. That's quite a lot of money.
That's a huge amount of money. It's huge. Like, I would love to know what Apple's total burn rate is for fines, like per annum.
But I saw a post by Matt Gamble on this. They make something like $310 million a day.
Yeah, okay. So 3 days and they're done.
Day's work, isn't it? I mean, that's just an insane amount of money. It just shows the scale of the company, really.
Yeah, no, it is crazy, but also it's you've done all that work to generate all that revenue, and then you're spending it on stuff you could have avoided to a degree.
Well, that's got to be a decent chunk of the subscriptions revenue, for example. That if they could deal with this and not be paying the fines out, then they'd make even more money. And I guess, as with a lot of these fines, and we know the EU one particularly, they can be fined major percentage of their annual income, of their revenue. So these fines could go up significantly. But
I've never really seen that come into force.
No, I think they're all a bit twitchy about doing things with American companies, particularly under the current government, aren't they? But this is an interesting article from Ben Lovejoy at 9to5Mac. It came out on the 28th of January, so we're not a million miles away from that, even though it is February. But, 3.2 million in South Korea, 162 million in France for violating privacy laws, 571 for breaching the EU DMA, and again, that can go up from there, 115 million in Italy for abusing. I mean, a few of these are in the EU, it must be said.
But if you read the paragraph just below, Google, 4.2 billion. Amazon, 2.5 billion. Meta, 228 million. How is Meta so low?
I think it does. It helps that Instagram and what was the other one, WhatsApp, weren't classed as being whatever that gateway platform or whatever it was. Although they're looking.
I'm sorry. How is WhatsApp not classed as the top tier? Because everybody I know apart from me is on WhatsApp, and it's a de facto way of communicating.
And revisiting the story from a couple of weeks ago, you're got all your data on an American platform.
Yep.
Bad. Everybody should be looking at Signal.
I've never used it, actually. I'm just a text sort of person, I must confess.
Well, you can just do text with that.
Yeah, maybe that's where I should head.
We should experiment maybe with our video conferencing on that.
It's hard changing messaging because my mates know how to get hold of me, and if I'm then asking them to install an app, I guess it tests how good your friendships are.
Well, I think if they really want to talk to you, they'll get hold of it.
Well, that's what I mean. It tests your friendship, doesn't it?
I think this is actually a perfect segue into our next story, actually, where the French government is going to ditch Zoom and Microsoft Teams for its own homegrown alternative. So, I love the French. I love how militant they are about stuff like this. They just make a decision and they're going to do it. For example, when the French decided to institute speed cameras on motorways, they burned down all the speed cameras.
Yeah, I always remember the Grand Tour episode where they were, maybe they overemphasized some of it about how the French will rally for a protest. But surely this can be the norm now. It feels like a lot of countries are going to start rolling their own, and we're going to step back from globalization of certain platforms. That's certainly what it feels like.
So the story of this is that they're going to stop using Teams and Zoom in amongst the French civil servants, apparently. So they're going to switch to a homegrown thing called Visio instead, which is a French company's cloud infrastructure. They've been testing it before this, so this isn't just a quick switch. And they reckon, and this is an interesting stat, they're going to save $1 million, 1 million euros, which is $1.2 million each year for every 100,000 users. Apparently 100,000 civil servants in France. So that is quite a saving every single year.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? And they're supporting their own economy. They're playing it back into their own world. And I do wonder if we're going to see more and more of this. Like I say, I guess it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think the problem is that we are so embedded, particularly in the UK, I think, with, I'm a Teams person, or I'm a Zoom person, or I'm a Google Meet person, or whatever it is. There's less of them, it must be said. But certainly...
Yeah, Google Meet is a lot thinner, definitely. It's Zoom or Teams here.
But just thinking of who I talk to in, say, the NHS, all of them are just standardized on Teams. I know you've talked repeatedly in the agencies you work for that you standardize on Teams. But I think all of us in the back of our minds must have this could go away,
Or it feels more and more uncomfortable as life carries on. But it's a tough one to change.
It is a tough one to change, but I think that's why, and fair play to the French for just picking a sector and starting there. It's not like they're doing the German experiment from a few years ago where they've gone, right, Linux desktops for everybody. You're using OpenOffice or LibreOffice, and you're going to use all open source. And it was a disaster, 15 years ago, because it's too big a bang. I think if you did this incremental thing where you said, right, start with Zoom and Teams, we're going to use Visio because it's a homegrown thing. Maybe then just switch the Office suites to LibreOffice or something like that. You could gradually move along that pathway of getting a bit of digital independence and true sovereignty for your data.
It's really hard, though, isn't it, I think, to get to transition, because do you do a big bang and scare everybody in one go, or do you do slow, considered, thoughtful change, but then you get change fatigue, don't you? It's a really hard thing to manage. I think that this sounds good, though. I like. Do you think they're going to have a problem, though, when more and more we do international meetings and where you've got to get people to dial into a different client? I guess it's all web-based, isn't it?
It's all web-based. I think, you can probably find a way of clicking onto it and going there. The civil service primarily just talks to the civil service, I would have thought. Maybe at the highest levels you're going to have, civil servants in Italy talking to Italians or in France talking to Italians or whatever. But most of that is probably internal messaging between teams, isn't it? Let's face it, 90% of my Zoom activity is people within my organization. Yes,
I was just casting my mind in my team's activity. You're right. Most of my team's work is internal, occasional external meetings.
So if you get something reliable where the video doesn't drop out and the sound goes wrong, although that can happen with the very best video clients, as you and I know perfectly well, then I think it's a good place to start. And if you think about it, even ignoring all the stuff that's happened recently between the United States and the EU and the UK, if you look at what VMware did, moving the goalposts on the VMware licensing and jacking them up several 100% in between years with the Broadcom purchase, this can happen if you didn't have a sort of national imperative or an international imperative to do otherwise. So I genuinely think this is good work by France.
You'll get more in control of your costs, aren't you? But the only concern for me is it's a lot cheaper now. But as that company gets bigger that's providing this platform, are they then going to start jacking their costs?
Well, possibly, but I think one of the joys of going open source is you can always run it yourself. The Visio in this case may not be, but you could install Matrix or Elements or one of these other open things and run it on your own server estate for not an awful lot of money. And all right,
yeah, true.
I think that's the joy of using these kinds of solutions. Most open source providers, if you think of Fedora or Red Hat or Ubuntu, which by the way is a British company I discovered recently. Ubuntu is a South African name, but it's a British company.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Canonical is British, which made me look at Ubuntu in a whole different light. They're open source, but often they will run a service as well. So if you're familiar with the tools, maybe just you running it in your own estate at some point isn't beyond the bounds of possibility. Or you just go to them for support until you're built up to that sort of level. So I think it's quite an interesting model to start considering.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Moving on, we talked about the issues of child sexual abuse material that was appearing on Grok. You're shaking your head, Chris. It's not gone away.
I hate it. No, it's not. And I hate, as a parent with kids, this is horrible.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. And I can't believe that that somebody hasn't dealt with this, particularly in the UK, where apparently our ombudsman Ofcom was meant to be looking at this urgently, and we've heard nothing since. However, 37 United States have responded saying that Apple really needs to act. And I have a real problem with this. Apple are the company that say you must use our safe app stores. They wouldn't allow Pornhub or some company like that to have an app within the App Store, but they're quite happy to continue endorsing this. Now, it's not just Apple, but this is really unacceptable. The fact that you're still able to do all this kind of stuff on Grok, and Apple continue to have it near the top in their App Store chats.
I'm probably slightly more mixed than you. I agree with you, by the way, but I'm probably a bit more mixed in that, well, hang on a minute. Grok isn't just for this. This isn't its only purpose in life, right? It feels like it is, though, because it's the only thing that gets reported from Grok. But surely Grok needs to be dealt with. Like, Grok, you've got this service here that generates content, but you can't do this. This is illegal. Deal with it. Why are they not being dealt with really quickly if this is unacceptable? I get the Apple Google thing of getting them to stop publishing it in the stores, but that should be a last resort because they can't regulate the company generating the content. So I think there's two things at play here, but I agree with you. But it feels like they need to go a lot harder at Grok, and they also need to go, look, App Store, you keep telling us how you're protecting people and you're not letting viable apps in that aren't doing any of this stuff, but yet because it's Elon, you're just letting this one get a pass. So I think there's two different things.
To a certain extent, yes. Absolutely, Grok should not be doing this. It just shouldn't be allowed. It should be banned. End, stop,
But if they do get through, if it does get through for whatever reason, Apple and Google need better controls in place to deal with it.
What happened when Epic were allowing people to charge for Fortnite inside of the App Store?
Oh, it went within seconds.
And they had the developer token revoked.
Yeah.
Right? That is so hypocritical.
Oh, agreed. And that was just over billing. Like, nothing offensive, nothing illegal, nothing, just horrible.
So,
and yet with child abuse content, and it's just carrying on.
So that double standard really grinds my gears. The fact that
I can get behind that now.
Yeah, that's the way to think about it. When it was about money, Apple and Google, bam, you're banned.
And they literally pushed the nuclear button.
Yeah, like revoked token, right?
Yep.
Because they're scared of Elon. It's ridiculous, and this is far more offensive than what Epic were doing. And it's not.
It's not just offensive; it's illegal.
Yeah. But not even a comment from either company about why these apps are still in the store.
Do you know why? Because they don't know what to do.
I think it's
absolutely no mechanism to deal with it.
It's morally reprehensible for a company like Apple that won't even have a hint of pornography, despite the fact what you can go off and watch in Safari, that they're allowing this to
continue. It's not the Wild West. Yeah, but nobody does that, right? Apple don't get that Safari opens you up to the entire world that they can't bill for.
But it genuinely really offends me, and it's yet another example of where Apple are morally, ethically failing. For the company that stands on their high horse, our app stores protect you from stuff. No, they don't. It's the top app in the App Store a lot of the time. It's disgusting.
And then look at all the advertising shenanigans companies get away with and cookies and all that other stuff.
Exactly. Nonsense. Anyway, I'm cross about that. Let's talk about something else I'm cross with. So we've said before about how the National Health Service in the UK signed on the line with Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's company, who is a large Republican donor, it must be said. They're a technology company that does all sorts of clever things with data. They're basically started as an offshoot of the CIA. That's not me with a tinfoil hat on saying that. It's a well-known fact about the company. And they do lots of very impressive stuff with data. Unsurprisingly, they're quite good at it at this point. However, the Ministry of Defence has also just signed on the dotted line with Palantir, according to this Register article from the 28th of January. I got issues with this.
So here we are in one breath, applauding the French. Well done. You're keeping it internal. Great. It's good for your economy. It's good for what's happening in the world right now. Brilliant. And then you come over to Britain, our lovely country, and then it's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to get more into bed.
Yeah, so, there's a couple of choice points to pick out of this. Palantir, chaired by former PayPal chief executive Peter Thiel, is known for its work for the defence and government security bodies, including the United States Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Agency. So that's a really good look, isn't it? Despite what they've done before, they're actively still allowing that stuff to go on in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers.
Right, so this is a $453 million contract. That was for the NHS. So the NHS one, which wasn't reviewed by the Ombudsman following the COVID pandemic, they just went and signed the next thing. There's a £330 million deal for the NHS, and now you have this on top of that for the Ministry of Defence, which is a similar amount of money, which of course I can't find in the article now. $240.6 million. This is a lot of money we're giving from our national infrastructure to American company, and actually giving them access to our military and healthcare data. What could go wrong?
It doesn't feel great, does it? It doesn't fill you with joy.
It really doesn't. In the light of everything that's happening in the world, and I'll use an American term for this, the optics of this are bad.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Anyway, have we got any happy stories? No, let's finish with one more unhappy story. And this is just coming back to how reprehensible Apple's been, as much as anything else. We've said and we've made excuses for Tim Cook, particularly at the beginning of this particular presidency, where he paid the $1 million to as part of the fief for doing the inauguration and all the rest of it. And we viewed it as Tim Cook taking one for the team, really. So it was Tim Cook that would be tarred with the Trump brush, rather than Apple as a whole. However, last week, on the day of the shooting, he went and attended the Melania premiere, which, by the way, is doing incredibly badly in the UK. Apparently, it's single-digit sales figures across the UK for the Melania film.
Is it a shock?
Well, Amazon spent $74 million on the film. 30 million doing it and 43 million, or the 43 million making it and 30 million promoting it. So he went to watch this bomb of let's call it what it is, the bribe, rather than the film. Tim would rather go and watch that than, go and deal with what's going on in his company. And then he recently released this statement about heartbroken by events in Minneapolis. This statement, which feels perfectly crafted to offend absolutely nobody, I think actually offends absolutely everybody. It's so wishy-washy, and it says nothing.
It was always going to be a nothing sandwich, though, wasn't it?
It's such a terrible look. I mean, he must realise how morally reprehensible this is. A company with courage would stand up and say this is wrong.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it. It is absolutely crazy.
The chief executive of Microsoft and the chief executive of Google weren't at this thing. He's there with Mike Tyson. What is going on?
Yeah, the world it's crazy. And I'd love to actually have an honest conversation with Tim offline of what he actually thinks is going on in the world. I get he's got to do certain things, but how much does he agree or disagree with doing them? I'm very curious.
This is the company that took that Ice Block app off the App Store as well. They could maybe have protected some of this stuff that was going on if they'd allowed that application to continue inside of the App Store and know where ICE agents were.
Right, okay.
I'm very unimpressed with Apple at the moment. You may be able to tell.
I hadn't noticed, mate. I feel really awkward with it because actually I'm using my Mac more and more. I'm obviously using my iPad. I'm doing a bit of coding. I'm enjoying that bit of the world. But it does, I'd like to think I'm a person with a moral compass, and it does make me feel really conflicted. And at the moment, though, we're not hearing much about Satya Nadella over at Microsoft, are we?
No,
who's
but
in the same seat as Big Tim.
Well, I think he's got his own problems with Microsoft there, hasn't he?
He has got his own problems, but we're not seeing him quite having the political problems that Big Tim's having. Maybe it's just because I'm not as keyed into that world. I don't know.
No, I don't think they are. He's certainly not engaged with it as much. I mean, Microsoft have got their own problems. I call them Microsoft because that's really what you get out of them at the moment. I mean, they've said they're going to double down on less AI stuff, but I'll believe that when I see it. I have serious problems with this, and I'm a hypocrite here as well. I'm talking to you on my M4 Mac Mini. We're using FaceTime to do this at the moment. However, I'm using the Zen browser here. Our notes are now going into Proton docs. We are actively looking for other means of doing this. I am trying to use my Linux computer more and more. I switched it to Ubuntu since I found out it was a British company. So I've cancelled my Amazon subscription. I'm looking at my Disney Plus subscription and thinking, should I be paying this? And I'm genuinely looking at my Apple Premier subscription and thinking, what do I actually get out of this at this point?
The Apple one's harder for me because of family and wider family implications at the moment.
I have that too, but at the same time, would I not feel better with them using a European streaming service for their music and buying a little bit of storage, on some sort of cloud service somewhere, an EU or a UK cloud storage, or in fact, as I do now, I run it myself on my own NAS. There would be pain involved. But it's definitely worth considering these things.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. And I've never used Spotify, but I've never been more tempted to. And I think if it wasn't for my family, I probably would have moved over to it.
Yeah. Should we do some news?
Yep.
So first up in the news, we've had a lot of talk about the Gemini model that's going to be powering new Siri, which is in itself quite interesting. However, Mark Gurman has reported this week on the 30th of January that apparently what Apple really use internally is Anthropic. And I know Anthropic were one of the companies that were looking at buying at some point, it seemed. So I just thought this was interesting that even though they've partnered with Google for the Siri product, internally they use a lot of Anthropic code.
Yeah, and in some ways, this is good, Apple. You need to go and see what So, and I'm not surprised. I'm hearing a lot about Claw Code lately as well, and that's obviously mentioned in here as well. Apparently, Apple have considered that. But this is where Apple's got to work out what it's doing, right? Like, they can't build everything. Like, I think the world and what people expect on their device is so big now, it's really hard for you to try and do everything homegrown, which was always largely Apple's, stake in the ground. And over time, obviously, like with the off with Google Maps, and then they moved over to doing their own apps. They started off with Yahoo Weather, I think it was, and then they did their own. I may have got that one wrong, but you know what I mean? They had a different weather source. Now they bought one and do their own. So they've slowly eaten up over time to their own things. I think with AI is a thing on its own. And I think unless you're really going to invest and give that, that business unit the ability to really do it and spend some money and continue to invest and move forwards, or do you just partner with somebody? And it's a tough one to call, because what happens if the company you partner with gets bought? You've got to exit it quickly. It's a real tricky one. I'm not surprised by this, is what I'm trying to say. I think I've been quite impressed with ChatGPT. I've used it a bit for code generation or just helping me understand how Xcode works. And I do feel conflicted, though. How much do I want to use it, and how much do I want it just to, like I would a Stack Overflow, a search, just to guide me in the right way? And I think I'm fighting with myself on what the right balance is. Same with making the icon. I've used it to make a temporary icon. I don't know how well it sits with me.
Yeah, it's I know what you mean. You can feel a bit conflicted with these things. I've done the same thing for sort of asking for bits of code for applications, or how do I do that again at work? That kind of thing. That sort of. I think.
And it is fantastic. What I do find with ChatGPT though is it's not so good with the new stuff. Like, tell me how to do this in iOS 26, and it's like.
But that's because it's new stuff, and we've seen that before. That there's less Swift stuff in there than there is Python or R or C++ or all those things, because there's more of that code on the web.
Pre-iOS 26 Swift UI, but post is a bit mixed.
My own sort of testing, I agree. I think Claude is far better at coding stuff than a lot of the other the agents. But again, I get a bit conflicted about it. I've tried to use Lumo, which is Proton's alternative, so obviously that's a Swiss company, and it's not bad. I don't think it's as good as something like Claude or Gemini, but it's not bad, and I feel slightly happier using it, I got to say. So it might be worth checking that as well. At the same time, every time you run a query in one of these things, you're hitting a data center for something, and it's drinking X amount of water. I mean, it's not like Stack Overflow ran on nothing, but it is troublesome because they are so convenient. 7 times out of 10, they give you enough of an answer to get on and try and fix it is what you're doing. And it's that helpfulness, I think, that is a problem with them. And you know what, I think you and I have been quite, I wouldn't say LLM hostile, but skeptical, I think is the word. And when you see it working, it does make you a bit conflicted. It does.
It does. And I do use, and full declaration, I do use a bit of ChatGPT, and their marketing's really worked well, because obviously it's just the de facto one, and a lot of my family do use it. For me, it is slowly replacing search, just for queries where I just want a definition, a text answer, guidance. But I feel conflicted when I'm trying to build an app of where I use and what I don't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of controversy this week over what was called Claudebot and then was Moltbot, and now it's something else, and it's you look like you've never even heard of it, Chris. However,
no.
It was.
Imagine us being on a podcast where you say something and I've never heard of it.
Yeah, so this Claudebot thing, which you'll have to put the link in the show notes for, is sort of a personal AI agent that you can link into iMessage, WhatsApp, Google, Messenger, whatever else it is you want, and allow it to have your own personal controls. You can see how it works there. It was all over the internet. So it does kind of require a subscription to Claude or ChatGPT or one of these things. I would suggest nobody goes out and installs this crack and tries it out. It has got some security issues as well, but this is absolutely, it's called OpenClaw now. Obviously, when it was called Claudebot at the beginning, Claw, C-L-A-W, sounds like Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E.
Yeah.
So that's where the sort of controversy started. But I'd go out and do a little bit of looking around about this. But this has really captured the zeitgeist of the moment.
Yeah, I don't feel very comfortable about when you said you can hook this up to I'm not doing that. I'm sorry.
Lots of people are happy to, because the idea is it gives you your own personal thing, so that the selling point is the agent. The data in the agent runs on your machine, even if it is calling out to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever. But presumably it's still sending some personal stuff to them in order to have your own context. So what's
it phoning home with? Or is it augmenting a model on your machine with data that it's got on its servers, and then your localized data. I don't know enough about it to be comfortable with that, but the screenshot Rod is sharing, which is on OpenClaw, which I have put in the show notes, it says full system access on. I'm quite happy using like one in a browser, and I know it's contained, and I've not installed anything locally, but yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's been a very popular thing. Let's move on and talk about something else briefly. You used the iPhone upgrade program at some point, I think, didn't you?
Yes, so here in the UK we used to have the iPhone upgrade program. If memory serves, I could pay an amount of money every month and then basically get an iPhone and then chop it in every year, and it kind of started again. It was a great way. I had significantly less cash than I have today of funding a phone. I think you had to have Apple Care with it, if I remember correctly. And so it was slightly more expensive than just financing a phone on its own. But here in the UK, this scheme's going away. I have stopped using it because unfortunately I just buy my phone outright generally. And then for me, when I buy a phone now, though, because I know it's going to go to a child in my family and then it's going to go to one of our parents in the family, actually me spending £900 on a phone or £1,000 on a phone, that phone's probably going to be in existence for sort of 5 years. So I feel a bit more comfortable with it, if I'm being honest. But I have used it. I thought it was quite a good scheme. It's a good way of people getting a phone with the Apple Care and spreading the payments. But I like this subscription lifestyle we've all got to. Everybody's living month to month to month, and I've tried to get out of it. Now, I'm fortunate I've been able to afford to get out of that subscription lifestyle, but this could be challenging for people if they do want a newer phone. Yeah,
so the reason this ended is because their deal with Barclays came to an end, and they were the people offering the 0% effectively to amortize the cost of your phone. And it was never your phone. You sort of borrowed the phone for a year, and at the end of the year when the new phone came out, you could get a new one as long as you returned it in good enough condition and all the rest of it. And basically they're changing to a more upfront 0% plan with 0% interest on it over 20 months or 30 months. So I mean, this is probably no better than what you'd get from your phone provider if you are buying a phone month to month.
Yeah, no, agreed. And maybe it's just a sign that it's interesting that when you go on Apple's website here in the UK today, you can finance the iPhone 17 Pro that I've got in my pocket at 0% interest, which if it's 0%, I'm very happy to do that. But if you want to buy a MacBook Air, which is approximately the same cost as an iPhone, you have to pay 4.9% interest. How does that work?
Yeah, I don't understand.
I think that's an awkward message, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting looking at these things that, for example, here's Vodafone, which neither of us are on, so I feel comfortable in showing this. So this is for an iPhone 16. How much are they charging? It's £468 to buy the phone outright. I don't know how that compares to...
No, you're saving up to that.
Sorry. Oh, you're saving up to... So the device cost is £588. If you want to pay for your phone in one go. And there will be, there you go. So here's your monthly plan. If you buy it over 24 months, that's going to be £22.50 a month with £30 upfront costs for a terrible plan, it must be said. But that's the fact that you're getting airtime in there as well. I don't think the deal Apple are offering are that good in comparison. Really.
No, sometimes they are the better deals to lock it into your contract. If you spreadsheet it out, they're usually the ones from the... cellular providers are the better deals.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Back to Apple, and we'll talk about AI again. Apple have actually spent a lot of money buying an AI company. So they bought an Israeli startup called Q.ai for $2 billion, which is the company's second biggest purchase, which is quite amazing, really.
Yeah, I've never heard of Q.ai. Hopefully this is good. Apple, you're buying something, feels like you've left it really late, but they've got quite a cool website, Q.ai, which has got... It's very sort of Apple-esque with the font they're using and stuff. Reminds me of Garamond a little bit. It's not Garamond, but it's not a million miles away from that, which they used to use on all their boxes. Their website of what they do. It's just like we do magic kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
So patents filed by Q.ai show its technology being used in headphones or glasses using facial skin micro movements to communicate without talking. That's what.
Yeah. So this has got to be the glasses that are coming at some point.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and again. As they make 300 million a day, 2 billion feels like pocket change to a company like Apple.
2 billion, yeah. It's not going to take them long to get to that. But they make so few big acquisitions, though, because I think they really struggle to integrate them.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
they've not got great history of that.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with this. Let's face it, they have bought technology. The technology they buy tends to take a few years to come good. I don't know if Beats has ever really come good. They've left Beats pretty much alone. It's still more or less the company that was.
I think Beats has come good because it gave them Apple Music because they just didn't have it, did they? And then they've kept the brand, they've kept it going, running alongside their AirPods, and there is a massive overlap on the Venn diagram of functionality. I think Beats has actually done all right, and it's carried on as a brand, and they haven't messed it up. I think it's fair to say. So I would say that Beats actually came good.
I think Apple Music is a very average product, I must say. You're talking about Spotify earlier. It's never transitioned well from the iTunes store that was there before. It feels like it's running a very old technology. It occasionally just doesn't load. It doesn't matter if you use it on an iPad, a phone, or a Mac. There's always little issues and bumps and hiccups with them. I think if they made it an entirely separate thing and gave it some coders who said, right, make this the best possible music product in the world, you'd have an awful lot better time with it, as opposed to it sort of being an amorphous blob within the Apple ecosystem. In the same way that the App Store is an amorphous blob within the Apple ecosystem. That's something that needs radical change. The whole underlying infrastructure of how things via the App Store is 20-year-old technology, 30-year-old technology, and web objects going back to whenever it was. It fundamentally hasn't changed since then.
The one thing that gets me with Apple Music is I just find and I've had this a lot more with Liquid Glass, is I come to an interface and I don't know what to do. Like if you go to Apple Music and you've got like the queue of songs coming up, how do I get back to the album view? The album view. Oh, I've got to tap the list view to go backwards. And then when I'm looking at an album or a song that's playing, how do I get to the album that it's on? And it's hidden like on the iPhone behind a little pop-up menu. And it's like, how's there not just a link back to the album menu? And I started writing my own music app, just a problem because I like to go and look at the album. And it's just like, how has this music app just not moved on? So I think we need to wrap this up then with the story. So they bought Beats. I think Beats was the good acquisition for them, but they've not been good at the human interface design of Apple Music. Now, hopefully that will change because we've had human interface problems. I think them buying Q.ai means they're doing something with their glasses, which has got to be good because they're not trying to roll their own, but they've gone and bought the technology to jumpstart them.
Fair enough. It's easy to go down a rat hole, isn't it? Also this week,
Agreed.
Apple reported its first quarter results. So this is from the company's own product announcement. Announced their financial results for fiscal 2026. So that's December into January this year. Revenue of $143.8 billion, up 16% year over year, which is diluted earnings per share of $2.84, up 19% year over year. So they had a stonking quarter is what that boils down to.
Basically, they're up circa 20 billion in this last quarter, the holiday quarter, compared to the previous year. If you look at the graph you're showing now, so last year they did 124 billion, which was their biggest ever holiday quarter, and they've done 143 billion. Like, wow. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, who has all the money? It's Apple, as the jingle goes on Upgrade if you listen to that podcast. So they have an amazing quarter, and obviously driven by iPhone sales. There was obviously a bit of demand for the iPhone 17. The iPhone 17 is a great phone. The iPhone 17 Pro, I think, is a bit of a meh phone.
Rod's misspoken there, everybody. The iPhone 17 Pro is the best iPhone I've ever owned. It's beautiful in the hand. The cameras are insane. It's got the first time we've had a truly beautiful colour in a long time on the phone. Absolutely love this thing. I was unsure about buying it when I bought it because I wasn't that gelled, but 6 months in, fantastic device.
Yeah, I don't feel I'm missing anything.
I don't think you are. If you've got an iPhone 15 Pro or newer, I think you're not missing anything because you've got USB-C, you've got a lot of the tech. One thing I will give it, I've dropped this phone a couple of times in my car, and you have that moment when it goes down the side of the seat, and you're like, oh no, there's like metal rails down there for this forth. Never been in a case, 6 months in, and she's pristine. I will give them whatever they're doing. In my view, and I'm quite careful with that. I keep it in a pocket on its own. I don't put it in with car keys. They've done a fantastic job, whatever they've done with hardening it.
So still this year, this hasn't been in a case, and it's exactly the same. So
what, for 30 days?
No. Not the calendar year.
Okay, the last 12 months.
The last 12
Fair
months.
Play.
Yeah.
I'm glad you've come to the club.
I haven't. It's a very stupid time for me to be on my phone as well. But the case broke on me when I was away somewhere, and I just didn't get around to replacing it.
Fantastic. So you're an accidental caseless.
Yeah.
Person.
So I'm not caseless, but however, I did say my Pixel. I did manage to crack that the glass on the back of that, although it's still working fine for the couple of days I went without over Christmas time. So we will see. Like I say, financially, it's probably not a great sign for me to be running anything caseless, but there we go.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. But the iPhone,
once again, we're off on a tangent. So
the iPhone's nearly 60% of their business.
Yeah.
Services is 21%. So between the iPhone and services, that is 80% of their business, which is crazy. And then you've got the iPad and the Mac is 6% each. I always find it interesting that the iPad and the Mac are roughly even Stevens. They usually just they jostle with each other by a percent. But given the number of models that they have of iPads and Macs, it's amazing they bother to spend that much time on them when it's such a small segment of their actual business.
But it's as you look at this now, once upon a time, iPad would have been a much larger segment of this. I think the Mac one will get a bump when the M5 Pros come out, and it's rumoured that M6s aren't that far away as well. When they put the M5 in the MacBook Air, I think that will have a decent chunk on Mac sales as well.
Possibly. I think when they do a touchscreen Pro, I think that's when it's going to go.
I don't think there's that much demand for a touchscreen Mac. I really don't. I think it's one of those things the blogosphere gets very wound up about. But touchscreen Windows devices.
I think it will be a slight industrial design uplift. So I think that will start getting people over the line.
Maybe. We'll see. I think the MacBook Air is their biggest seller, and that's what makes a difference in the Mac lineup. And once they add that, fine.
I was going to hold up my MacBook Air, but I've left it in the house. I love my MacBook Air. It's absolutely fantastic. Everybody should, but unless you know you need something more, everybody should get one. I am giving the Pro a side eye, I must say, because I fancy the slightly better screen.
Yeah, I'm not. At work, I might spend money on Apple products, but personally, I'm very much taking a wait and see approach to what happens with the company, because ethically, I've got issues with them, as I said before.
Yep. No, I get it. I do feel conflicted.
So Mac revenue, as we talked about, I think we'll see a change in that when the new devices come out. It's down -7% over the, where are we for Q1 20 over there? So it was up last year, up 16% last year. It's down 7% now. So that's got to be slightly concerning for them, but I think the fact that they didn't upgrade the Ultra devices and there were a couple of sort of edge cases for what was hanging around there might be a factor.
Do you know what? I think for every category other than the iPhone, it's really hard to compare year on year because they don't have that static cadence of, right, every September the iPhones come out. Everybody knows it, right? It's been like that for donkey's years now, 10 years, say. But with the Mac and the iPad especially, their release cadence is not set in stone. Sometimes you get something in the spring, sometimes it's the summer, sometimes it's the winter. And I really wish they would lock in more of a static cadence. They should be doing the iPhone and they're on about obviously changing the iPhone coming up, that we're going to have 2 releases, which I do think makes sense. Release the Pros, then release it for everybody, because they're doing too much at once. And they kind of need to do that with Macs and iPads, of have more of a annual cadence in there so people know when the new stuff's coming and they know when the right buying time is. And
they could upgrade a screen every so often as well. That'd be a thought.
Agreed.
This is an interesting graph. Product and services total profit split by process, and you can see the peaks in the product. This is Jason Snell's graphs from 6 Colors, by the way. And the peaks in this will be absolutely iPhones, as they go through. But look how that services graph is beginning to catch up with the bottom end of product.
Yeah, absolutely insane, isn't it? And the services, because everything is, we live in this subscription-based world, the services is, just doesn't fluctuate like that because most people are locked in monthly.
Yeah, and the new Creative Suite that they've released is only going to add to the services bundle.
Apple Creative Studio.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay for it. And I don't like the fact, just as another rat hole, I was looking at Steve Troughton-Smith experiment with Keynote, which is the only app I actually care about within that, ignoring Final Cut Pro and Logic. And there's an advert built into Keynote now to upgrade to the new service to do it. And it uses tokens. So if you're asking it to help you summarize your slides or whatever, it's using tokens. He blitzed through his token allocation in about an hour.
Wow. I get he's playing with it, but that's not great, is it?
No, and it was a different token if you ask it to generate an image based on if you ask it to summarize text. The image tokens didn't seem to be as expensive as the text generation.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And it's using some rubbishy model, I think, or it may be using ChatGPT. But how's that going to change when we have on context Gemini or whatever it is? So I got issues with adding that bundle here. I understand that they want to make more sustained ability to update the apps, particularly Final Cut Pro and Logic, and the more creative apps in the Creative Suite. But iWork has not changed in years significantly, and just charging you to embed a little bit of AI in there is not a great way to get people on board.
Agreed, and I love the iWork apps. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, good year for iPhone, as we've talked about. The revenue
insane year for iPhone.
Yeah, but again, just to look at the services thing, it's a cash cow, isn't it? It just goes up and up and up and up.
Yep. Up and up and up and up.
There's not a lot to say about it, really. It's going up, and their gross margins are doing well. Wearables, I mean, that overall trend line is down. I got to think help with that. I don't think a new home device is going to help that in any significant way.
But wearables, home and accessories, again, they haven't got really, other than the Apple Watch, they haven't got a great cadence, like of releasing home stuff. AirPods are a bit mixed.
And I think that, I mean, you sort of look at the wearables and the home stuff overall. The Apple Watch, people have got them. They're not in any great rush to go out and buy more. If you've got a pair of AirPods, until the batteries go, you're not going to do anything about it. An odds category, and Vision Pro, I presume, is in here as well, and that's not helping it.
No, I'm not being funny, but the last 4 years of Apple Watch, meaningless.
I look at my Apple Watch now, and I think I wear it out of habit more than anything else. I think I should maybe just go back to a normal watch, frankly. I know you're there. You're leading the fashion charge, Chris.
There you go. And this watch I'm wearing right now is 26 years old.
Yeah. This is one that we need to look at in the next quarter. So this is Apple regional revenue by area. So we have the Americas, European, Middle East and Africa, China, rest of Asia and Japan. I wonder if this European, Middle East and Africa line will flatten based on what's been going on.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I think it's going to take time for that to happen. Like for it, to actually make a meaningful difference, I think it's going to take a long time.
I think it will, but if 10% of Europeans, which isn't a big audience for them, let's face it, America by a long way is their biggest audience. And, I think if we could overlay some Android lines onto this chart, it'd be quite interesting to see how it went. I think it's a region worth looking at,
Yeah, no, it's fair.
All right. I think that's enough on that. Once again, Apple has all the money, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, they are knocking out. Tim Cook's Apple is a money machine and always has been.
But not a very ethically sound one.
Yeah, and sometimes a few design missteps.
Yeah, let's look past liquid glass.
I've just put one more link in. I just think it's worth covering this very quickly. Apple did announce they have 2.5 billion active devices around the world. Yeah, I remember when they reported 1 billion. It didn't feel like it was that long ago. And then 2 billion, and now they're at 2.5 billion active devices. Insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of devices. Yeah, and I've bought my fair few of them over the time. I mean, let's face it, as I look around this, where I am at the moment, I've got my phone. There's an iPad next door that I haven't touched in about 6 weeks. There is obviously this Mac that I'm on. I've got my work Mac laptop. Yeah, I've got a few around here.
Yeah, same here. I don't know whether Apple TV's counting this. I guess they do. If they do, I mean, I've got 3 of them on the go.
Yeah.
I've got obviously a couple of Macs. I've got an iPad and iPhone. So I'm up to 7 devices. Plus all my family have got one. We must have at least 10 to 11 to 12 just in our house.
Yeah, that's
4 people.
Yeah, interesting. Amazing. Car Corner?
Car Corner.
I'm going to have to record that. I think you've got actually a sting for us now as we move between the things. That's new. You did that last week as well. Yeah, so here we are. My car, which is a Volvo EX30 Ultra, has had a recall. This is officially on the government website. It's a really nasty recall as well. Basically, a couple of cars went on fire while under charge.
That's not good.
So this is a new car. It's only 2.5 years old. The affects model years 2024, 2023. Mine is a 2024 vehicle. It has the bigger battery, 64 kilowatt hour battery, and is affected by this. So
a bigger fire potentially then.
Bigger fire. So I have had the recall notice from Volvo and this one on the government website. What it means is I can only charge the battery to 70% until they come up with an actual fix for it.
Oh, they don't have a fix. They're recalling it, but they don't have a fix.
The recall is go to the Volvo dealer. They will manually set your charge gate to 70%. So I can override it if I want. The notification, don't charge this on a rapid charger. Don't charge this indoors or under covered things.
Ideally, charge it when it's raining, so there's water to put the fire out.
Yeah, and slowly, so you're not, adding it. So this is absolutely diabolical. If I was still relying on this vehicle to do long trips a lot of the time, you only rapid charge, and you need a lot of charge because 70% of the battery on this vehicle is about 160 miles.
Yeah, it's not a lot, is it? It's not a great look. I'm amazed for Volvo because historically Volvo had a very good rep. Yeah,
so I'm displeased by this. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, no, I would be absolutely fuming. I mean, I enjoyed my electric car. I would possibly buy one again. I've not missed it if I'm on it. Like, I love the convenience of charging at home. I generally do. But I'm quite happy having a much cheaper set of wheels to roll around in at the moment.
I think if my situation was different and I had solar panels, I would absolutely go back to an electric vehicle because it makes complete sense. Complete
Yeah,
sense.
which I do have the solar panels, and it does massively take the edge off charging it. But my little car, and I'm not driving a huge amount, I'll put 50 quid in it every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, but you're lighting money on fire. It's not a renewable source of energy, is it? Petrol. So I get it. However, I think there's lots of issues around electric vehicles for people that can't charge them very easily, and or because the cost of rapid charging, if you've got a vehicle that can do it's a thing. And we're not the only ones that think so, because Tesla has also discontinued 2 of its vehicles, which is a beautiful segue, if I do say so myself. And they have discontinued their second vehicle that they started making after the Roadster, which is the Model S, and they've discontinued the Model X, which is probably the 4-wheel drive looking thing that made them quite famous. It's certainly the first Tesla Jeremy Clarkson liked, because it did the dancing door things to Ode to Joy, if you recall that. It did the eagle wing doors.
I'll be honest, I've never really been taken with Tesla's gimmicks. Like, it's never appealed to me that I can play games and make fart noises or whatever it does. It just, I don't know why, it just doesn't really bother me. So I've never been that fussed by it. I didn't know this had happened. You told me this at the top of the show, and I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing. But then I thought about it in my mind. Here in the UK, you do not see a lot of Model X's at all, because they're very expensive. They're like 100 grand, I think. And you don't see a lot of Model S's, not new ones anyway, because I think the Model 3, to be honest, has cannibalized the rest of the market for them, because it is a good car for people that want a Tesla, and it's obviously hit a price point that people get, and it's on a lot of car schemes. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts about that. The reason they've stopped it isn't because of Model 3 has done that. I think the Model Y even more so, because it has got a bit more space in it and it is a bit bigger. They've stopped the production of these vehicles, A, because they're quite old, but B, they want to make robots instead, and that's not going to make them lots of money, I don't think.
So do you think Tesla's going to be more of a robot company than it is a car company?
That's what Elon wants. He wants vehicles that drive people around for as robotaxis.
Yeah, but he's been telling us we're getting that next year.
Yeah.
Next year's never really come.
But they actually have autonomous vehicles in some states in America now, right?
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
So that is a thing now. When that started, they still needed a driver sat there just in case. But now they've actually got fully autonomous Teslas rolling around. Fine. I don't think robots are the thing, though. I mean, they're going to stop 2 production lines in a couple of factories just to pump out robots. Who's buying a robot?
Not me.
No, and I can't think of many, even very rich people who've got disposable income, other than go, look at my robot, it falls over. I genuinely don't think this is a market segment yet. We
were in a restaurant last night, and there was like a robot-esque thing where you could put your dirty plates. It was like a buffet style restaurant, and my wife was like, "What's that? I've never seen one of those before." And it's like, it's kind of like a little robot thing that you put plates on, and I guess it just goes away. I don't know. I hadn't really seen one before, so it was interesting to see it, and I'm not sure how I felt about it.
Well, I mean, you do see them, like when I was in Finland, there was the delivery robots that go around delivering people's, packages around a small city that's not very hilly. Fine. And I think they exist in London and bits of the southeast as well. Fine. Obviously, you've seen robot vacuum cleaners in airports and on hotels and stuff like that. That all kind of makes sense to me, but I'm not spending, I don't know, 10 grand, 15 grand on a general purpose robot that might fold my clothes and load my dishwasher. I'm not. I can fold my clothes and load my dishwasher if I had one.
But this is I can see people doing it because it gets time back, right? I can see people doing it that have got a crazy amount of money, and it will come down in price. Like dishwashers, probably when they first came out, were crazy money, and then they reached obviously a tipping point where everybody ended up with one.
I suppose you've got to start somewhere, but it feels like the apocalypse to me.
It feels like Judgment Day is coming. Judgment
Day is here, yeah. I mean, it's the rise of the machines. It'll be feeding you, force feeding you concrete with your robot that you bought before your car drives over the top of you. Not that I want to get, again, too tinfoil hatty, but, there we go. Should we move on?
Let's move on.
Move on. So, media. I watched a film. I watched a film,
You've watched a film. I think I've been pretty rubbish. I've been reading a lot.
Good for you. Reading's probably healthier. So I finally got around, because I had a bit of time, to watch the F1 movie. Yeah, so the critics say 82%, the audience says 97%, which I can't quite believe that as I'm reading it. 97% for this movie.
So look, I've enjoyed this movie. I'm a big Formula 1 person. I liked how they inserted the fictitious world into the real world. I thought they actually did a very good job of that. It's not the best movie in the world, but actually I generally quite enjoyed this movie. I've seen it a couple of times, so I actually quite liked it. Would I score it 97%? No. Would I score it at sort of 75%, an easy film I can put on? I don't need to think too much. And it's entertainment, yes. For me, it's not a 97%. Like a handful of films in my head that would score that sort of score. For me personally, you score a film high because it hit you at the right time or it's in your informative years. But this isn't that film. I did enjoy it.
It's far, far, far too long. It was almost 3 hours long.
And this was my gripe the other week with you about a lot of films now. Like, for some reason, every film that comes out seems to have to be like 2.5 hours as a minimum. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Yeah. It is too long. I think it could have had a little nip and tuck, wouldn't have hurt it.
A lot of nip and tuck would have helped it an awful lot. I mean, the story's not that, oh, he's a driver, he's a bit old and sarcastic, and his big idea is the car goes around the corners really fast. Well done. I'm sure none of the other Formula One teams think about that at all. It's all about forward airflow. Great, well done. I've probably just spoiled the whole plot of the film there, but I mean, it was fine. It's a solid 2.5 out of 5 movie. It's a meh movie. It's fine. Wasn't offensive. It wasn't bad. It was well acted. The effects were well done. All the money is on the screen, but you knew exactly what was going to happen from the second the film started. Oh, there's going to be some ups and downs. He's probably going to have a crash or two, and then they're going to win a race at the end. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I still quite enjoyed it, I must say. Like I say, but I've seen some of it being filmed, and when they were filming, I was like, how the hell is this going to work? I just couldn't see how they were going to do it. I think they pulled it off reasonably well.
I kind of think if you're into Formula One, it probably means more to you because they kept panning past people, and I'm like, am I meant to know who that guy is? I don't know.
Yeah, what didn't help him, I think, is loads of people for that year, and so it felt quite old.
If you say so. I mean, I just thought it was like Days of Thunder or something like that from years ago. It was just a very average film. I used to have a film rating system where at the top of my film rating system was Dread or Mad Max Fury Road, and then you had it was all right. Then you had Meh, and then you had Platoon Leader with Michael Dudikoff. Although that might actually become what's the name of the film? Something Racer, Speed Racer by the Wachowski brothers. There you go. There's a car film for you, Chris. Go and try and watch Speed Racer by the Wachowski brothers. It's one of the films.
You're not saying it by the fact I've got to try and watch it.
Well, I couldn't because the color palette was so bad it blew my eyeballs out.
Oh, okay.
This is a meh.
Yeah, and I get it. You're not into Formula One. You didn't see it filmed. You probably don't care about any of the side slotted in. I quite enjoyed that. I get it. But it was like the biggest film of last year, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought I did well just to watch it, frankly, because it's not really in my wheelhouse.
Fair enough. You do one for the team. So what would your popcorn meter rating be?
I would give this 50%.
Oh, do you know what I nearly said? 50-50?
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah, it's a distinctly average movie, but it's not a bad movie, All right, I'll be more generous.
No, it's not bad. It's watchable and it is entertainment. It is Top Gun Maverick in a car.
No, it's not as good as Top Gun Maverick, which is just Star Wars. I'll say that again. I'll be more generous. This is 51%. All right, so it's all right. Meh.
Fair enough.
Something that wasn't all right was Criminal Record, which was an Apple TV show starring Cush Jumbo and Peter Capaldi that was out about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago at this point. It was really bad. I struggled my way through all 5 or 6 episodes. It started out with a reasonably interesting premise and degenerated to absolute drivel. It's coming back for a second season, and I don't understand why. There's better stuff to go and watch out there. Frankly, go and watch the Formula One movie. It's more entertaining than this nonsense.
Wow, that is high praise for this film. Do you know what? I think I watched like one episode of this and I was gutted because I actually really like Peter Capaldi and I was really disappointed.
Yeah, Peter Capaldi is one of my favourite actors. I think he's a fine Scottish actor that's been in lots of better stuff than this.
And can be very funny with the right set of lines. Fair play.
Obviously, things like the political TV show that I've...
The Thick of It.
It was. I said The Thick of It. I'm thinking of the film In the Loop. That was the name of the loop.
In the Loop was the film.
In the Loop was a film. He was obviously a Doctor Who. I remember him from things like The Crow Road on Scottish TV, which is an adaptation of an Ian Banks novel. He was in Love. You've seen that film from a few years ago. He's a terrific actor. By the way, if you haven't seen Local Hero, go and watch Local Hero. It's an absolutely terrific movie. This is drivel and shouldn't be watched. I haven't played any games. Have you played any games?
No, I really haven't. Like I said, I've been reading and coding, and I think everything else has just sadly fallen by the wayside.
All right, let's do a main show then. So a lot to talk about in the main show because we did the financials elsewhere, but just on our sort of having a bit of a light go at Apple, light go at Apple this time. Let's just talk about some of the bugs that have crept into Apple operating systems.
Whoa. Real-time follow-up. You told me to go watch Local Hero. I've just looked it up. Guess what its Rotten Tomatoes score is?
What is it?
100%.
It's a
film from 1983.
It's a truly great movie and has one of the best soundtracks if you look at like a little bit of Mark Knopfler / Dire Straits that you'll find in a film.
Ooh, sold. And it's £6.50 on the Apple. There you go.
Well, it's a bargain. So go out there and do that. I'll let you put a link in the show notes to that. Just to talk about some bugs and sort of reactions and things to operating systems and what's going on in the Apple ecosystem in the main show. So this was from Michael Tsai, who we occasionally link to here, just talking about some of the bugs. And as I was reading through this little list of bugs here, I thought, I've had all of these. You go to email, you need to find an email, you type in the sender's name, you get nothing in the subject line. You try a unique word, nothing. You get absolutely nothing when you type there in the mail client. Garbage, rubbish. This one really rings home to me, though. In autocorrect, you type a word, autocorrect changes it. You delete it and type what you meant, autocorrect changes it again. You fix it again, it changes. You've now manually corrected the signaling you want it this way. Autocorrect doesn't care, it will die on this hill. I can only agree with that. Autocorrect drives me absolutely barmy. It's dreadful.
I completely agree with you. I don't know quite what's happened to autocorrect, but for something that's shipped on the original iPhone, guessing your words and where you smished the keyboard, and we had much smaller screens back then, it's got progressively worse. And I thought Apple fixed this a couple of versions ago, but I don't know, we seem to be getting worse and it's driving me potty.
It is truly bad. I have another little thing to throw into this, which is website fields in mobile Safari will auto-capitalize everything. And getting them to not put in a capital is massively challenging. My username doesn't start with a capital. It never started with a capital. Please don't autocorrect it to be a capital. Stop it. And quite often you need to put a space in, then put a lowercase word and delete it to get it to recognize a field. It's dreadful.
Yeah, agreed. There are many frustrations like that. We should be smarter these days.
Yeah, and what you were talking about with autocorrect there was when they put in some community algorithm that would correct, as the bulk of people started typing a word, it would become an option for you in autocorrect. And you're right, they said they'd taken that out. I'm not sure they have.
Yeah, it doesn't. Maybe this is more Apple intelligence just not working.
I mean, it lets you type ducking, the correct word for ducking these days, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that one.
This one. You're checking out and need to change your card. You see a button with a credit card icon and you address it. To tap it, it changes your address, not the card. Change the card. You need to tap the other button that says change payment. The one without the card on. I've been caught by this a few times. If you've got more than one card and paying for things, it's awful.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And just general autofill seems very mixed.
Yeah. AirDrop is on. They're in your contacts. Nothing. You both toggle Wi-Fi. Nothing. Toggle Bluetooth. Nothing. Turn AirDrop off and on. Sometimes it works. Usually you just text it instead. That has absolutely been my experience of AirDrop.
Yeah, I don't use it a huge amount, I must confess.
Dreadful.
It's a great tech, but just don't really
But
use
it's not. It's not. It's a good idea. It almost never works.
Yeah. Generally, most people just text now, don't they? Like,
well,
hey, look, I need to send you something. I won't AirDrop it to you. I'll just text it to you.
Dreadful. You took some photos. iCloud says uploading 847 items. You wait. Next day, uploading 847 items. Week later, uploading 847 items. Is it stuck? Is it working? Is there an error? It's so opaque and bad. All of this stuff, probably most of this is related to iCloud, back-end stuff. It's poor that they haven't fixed this. In how long?
Years. I think what's worse is every year we get new stuff, but what we really want is the Snow Leopard year of we're not doing new stuff, we're just going to tidy up stuff, and we haven't really had that, have we?
So this is some back-end stuff. And then this... about macOS Tahoe breaking Finder columns views, I just thought was just a fascinating sort of investigation into what's happening. Now, if you don't use columns view, you may never have even noticed this. Well, I almost exclusively use columns view when I'm navigating around on my Mac. And it's appallingly bad, the behavior of how columns view works with it. Have you seen this?
I have seen this. I do like columns view a lot, but this is just down to the redesign just not being well thought through. So it hasn't impacted me a huge amount, but it does drive me potty.
So what happens is occasionally you get the label obscuring the resize widget on the column, and you can't see what thing that you're looking for. It's just awful user interface design. And one of the reasons I got into Mac was because the user interface was so good. And all of this is building up by 1,000 cuts things. It's like the background technology doesn't work. Now the foreground technology doesn't work. Now the liquid glass, stupid bloody corners thing is stopping me from resizing my windows as well as resizing my... It's becoming untenable to use the system sometimes.
I think it's a real shame, isn't it? Because the Mac was really well thought out, really well designed. It's obviously the Mac now does far more than it used to do, but they've taken their eye off the fit, finish, finesse that they used to have. I don't know why. It's just they seem to have forgotten that was what they were famous for. Just gone backwards with it. The fit and finish is awful.
Yeah, and I know you're probably going to say, well, Windows have got it better at the moment. I disagree that they have, because you've got to fight your way past all the advertising that's in the operating system right from the outset. That's not better. And it takes an hour to install a Windows system from scratch. Once you're there, you get advertised to, and once you're there, you have all the monitoring going on in the background. So it might look a little bit more together, although you still have instances where you've got widgets from 30 years ago making their way to the foreground in Windows. It's like a schizophrenic operating system, even Windows 11. Both of the main line operating systems are trash at the moment.
I must confess, I do quite like the look of Windows 11. I think Microsoft, they've not copied Apple. They've done their own thing. And I think they've done their own thing in their own way. And I don't find it as offensive as I used to find Windows. I think they've done all right.
Yeah, but
it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but I like that they've done their own design style with their own guidelines. And in some ways, like I said before, the icons look better. I actually quite like Windows 11.
I think Windows 7 was more consistent.
Possibly, but again, OSs have got so big now with so many things going on.
But how many of those things do you actually use? Most of the time, you turn your computer on, you write your document, you do your video call, you switch it off again.
I better use Windows. I literally use it to game on.
So that's very peripheral. I'm in Windows all day, every day, doing analysis in a remote desktop environment. I am deep in Windows. It's no better than ever it was, let me guarantee you.
Okay, I believe you, but like I said, as a cursory glance, I quite like it.
And Windows 11 is so absolutely mind-bogglingly sluggish when you try and do anything with it on anything that isn't the absolute top-end computer. So a remote desktop environment, it's almost untenable to work on. It's so full of cruft, and I think this may be the problem with macOS as well. It's so full of cruft that the bugs and the optimizations you used to get when they were working with less RAM, less hard disk, less whatever it was, less system resource, it's just over the top. Now, Mac have more headroom because they have got good Apple Silicon processors running on them. But that makes it even less excusable that you can't use the operating system in the way that you want to.
No, I think that's fair. And sometimes I think we're getting lazy as programmers because we know we've got so much horsepower now to play with. So we're not making things as efficient as they could be.
Yeah, that's my operating system rant against Mac and Windows. I'm not going to talk about Linux because that's a rant for another day, or at least a story for another day. What I'm going to talk about was, I noticed this from Basic Apple Guy on Mastodon. Last night, actually, just when I was putting the finishing touches in the show notes. Apple Guy, you'll know, is a designer who does all sorts of great graphics, icons, backgrounds, and all sorts of stuff for Mac. He's obviously a massive Mac fan. He was talking about how he saw this particular App Store review on his iPad last night, and I don't know if you can see the screenshot, but this appeared on his iPad. I got all sorts of issues with this. A, the advert is bad, that you've got an Apple security alert for viruses attacking your system in the App Store, but look how the text of running outside of the box. How did this pass app review, Chris?
Yeah, that's awful, isn't it? Like, all of this just looks awful. How are they allowed to use the word Apple and the Apple logo in this? Is this a website? Is this an app?
This was on the App Store on his iPad.
Wow, that's awful, isn't it?
This is what I mean. The quality of the software failing everywhere. It's not just your Finder. It's not just liquid glass. It's failing everywhere.
They haven't got like all the edge case testing they used to do of what happens if this text is too long. How do we truncate it? How do we have a more drop down or whatever it may be? And it's just, it's not good, is it? The fit and finish, I think they spread themselves too thin.
So this leads me to my point, which is I read this article about Backseat Software, and I sent it to you for homework yesterday. I trust you read it.
A little bit.
I did the slightly.
I apologise up front because I was
slightly panicked look on Chris's face doesn't fill me with hope here. I'm going to summarise this by so this is Mike Swanson's blog. He tells a great story at the start about if you're driving your car had a similar experience to what using modern software is like. So you start your car, you get in there, and you get a little pop-up. It pulls you over the side of the road and says, "How are you enjoying your car so far?" Or your indicators. You get a thing when you go to use it saying this is a new feature, tap to learn more. And it keeps interrupting you for every single interaction that you have with the vehicle.
Microsoft have got really bad at it. I've noticed on the Mac a lot. Every time I fire up Excel or PowerPoint, it's like, did you know we also save it? Did you know we've now got this here? And it's like, I just want to use the app. Just maybe give me a button that lets me go and find new stuff. But just, I don't need to be interrupted every 5 seconds.
Yeah. So this whole tap to learn more, find out a bit more about the system. You could do it this way. You could try that. We've become so used to it as users of software. Even on our phones, the second you install an app, it's going, hey, would you like to review us on the App Store? Did you know you can do this? It's just so pervasive to our interactions with computers all the time that we kind of just accept it. His argument here is that this is wrong, and it's a very long article that's absolutely worth reading, Chris. But the be-all and the end-all of it is that who makes it to the top in these companies, Apple, Google, Microsoft, aren't engineers. It's marketing people. And marketing people like metrics. Marketing people like to know things. Marketing people optimize software based on how much people are using it. So if there's a feature you've hidden away in a menu, the chances are you haven't been using it. So when you look at the metrics, you go, well, that's a feature we can get rid of. Is kind of the gist of this. So when you have the Allen dies float to the top that go, well, it doesn't matter, we can hide all these buttons because nobody was using them anyway, because all the analytics Apple have been taking us over the years show that. They get rid of it, they drop it, they hide it, they push it away. How are you ever going to use it again, even if you did use it, if it's hidden 3 menus away? And this simplification of software is driven by marketing and metrics and analytics. And that is fundamentally a bad thing for our use of computers, because my experience when I use a Mac is different to what I use on a phone, because I'm very familiar with the operating system and I could get on and do what I wanted. And that's what's causing a lot of this lack of attention to detail from Microsoft, who want to monetize their operating system, and from Apple, who do the tooltips or the content gets in the way and all these widgets are rubbish and it's cruft. And I just feel it's pervasive and very bad for computing in general.
Yeah, I don't disagree with some of this. And look, you and I have been having a bit of back and forth as I've been writing an app, and it's got some icons on it. And it's like, well, how do you explain what those icons mean? I know what they mean because I wrote them. Yeah. But it's like, well, how do you, the first time somebody uses the app, and do you give them like a lot of onboarding that they just next through because they don't actually want to look at it? And it's a really tricky one. I think it is hard. Like, this user interface is hard, and you're designed for people in different languages, different accessibility requirements, different devices, big screens, little screens. It is really hard, and I don't think anybody's got a good answer for it. But we have gone backwards, especially on your Mac when you've got all this. We've got more screens than ever had, and yet we're hiding more and more things in dot menus, hamburger menus, whatever it is. It's like, but we've got more screen now. Why can't you give me my buttons to do interaction and explain what these things are in a nice way, or give me more of a guided tour? Do you remember the I think it was a version of iPhoto. You could tap a button like on your eye, little yellow explainers would appear around all the buttons to tell you what every button did. And it was a great interface, but Apple never really did much more with it. And I think that's quite a helpful thing. Look, if every app had like a little icon where you could go, tell me what everything does, and all these buttons appear and go, right, this is what everything does around the screen, and then you can turn it off again because you've got that orientation piece. But have you ever gone back to any of that? Yeah,
there's a balance, but I think it's driven by, and like I say, read the article, it says it far better than I do, but this sort of start in the 90s for how the internet changed things, from software being a thing that you got patches, if you were lucky from it, if it got posted out to another floppy or CD, to it being something that was on all the time where users could have patches delivered to you and it could fix the software, through to, while we're doing this, why don't we collect analytics from people, through to Apple launching the iPhone and giving us push notifications and demanding our attention all the time. It's a fairly linear story that he tells you how our software ends up, and I won't say the word again because I'm trying to be polite, how we end up where we are in the 2020s, that with Cory Doctorow's term that we've talked about a few times. You can see how it happens and how analytics have changed everything, and how the growth of that understanding, for want of a better word, has pushed these people who are either operations people or marketing people who want to understand things and to optimize things, end up running the companies that we love, and we end up in the situation that we're in. So I just think it's interesting for in those terms, and it's just a really good article that you should go away and read when we're finished, Chris.
I think the article, though, the bits I have read, I've got halfway through it before I went out last night. But I think the bits I have read are bang on the money, though, because I was trying to send an email the other day and Outlook goes, "Are you enjoying this app? Do you want to rate it?" It was like, I'm trying to send an email. Like, why are you popping up right at this moment? Like, you can see I'm composing an email. That now is not the time. Like, have a bit of sense about when you pop these things up. And as for me trying to write an app, part of my mind's thinking, well, how would I cope with that? How would I pop up a rate my app alert?
Why do you need to?
Because I want to get it out the App Store.
Sure, but maybe there's a thing on the left-hand side somewhere. You go, like this, leave us a review. Just on the left-hand side in the menu that you can approach when you want to. You know, it's
I think
sensitive,
I've done that, actually.
which is great, but it's about being sensitive to the user, isn't it? And that's part of the argument in here as well. There should be a variety of modes of doing this, and what the default should not be shove all this stuff in your face immediately.
No, I do agree with you there. And that's important. People want to do work, right? Apple, you keep telling us content's king, but yet you keep giving people more opportunities to flash things up and annoy them.
Yeah, and it's endemic. I mean, you and I both remember the days of Office when people wouldn't know how to generate a table of contents, for example, or something like that. Right.
I still struggle to remember where that is, I must confess.
But it's there. It's in a menu. It's a couple of menus deep. It can be done. I do it all the time. But it shouldn't be, nobody knows how to generate a table of contents, so we'll put some metrics in. Nobody is generating a table of contents because they can't find it. We're just going to take away the ability to generate a table of contents, which is the next step for that. And that's what's happening with their software. And, it bothers me.
Do you think people move stuff in software just for the sake of releasing a new version of like, oh yeah, we're going to move all this around? Because you see it quite a lot in Office apps, stuff moves. It's like, why are they moving it all? Like, does it need to move? Or are we just changing it for the sake of change?
But my worry with Microsoft is that they'll just stick a Copilot button on there and go, oh, it looks like you're trying to generate a table of contents, and we're back to Clippy.
Yeah, and we do it all for you, and you, the user, don't need to know how to do anything anymore.
Because you're morons. All you need to do is you need to pay us your $39.95 a month or whatever it is for whatever piece of dreck we're trying to give to you. And we're just going to continue to make things worse at the same time. We're going to advertise to you. You're going to have to pay us for the joy of advertising to you. It's not your software anymore. You're only borrowing it as long as you keep paying us the money. And this is the world, despite the fact I've just spent £1,500 on this computer or phone.
Yep, well, they all roughly cost the same now, don't they?
So, tinfoil hats on, folks. Take your Linux computers and run for the hills. That's all I wanted to say about it. But I just thought you had to let me rant, and I didn't get political at all. Go me.
No, but it would be nice to see Apple come back in WWDC, which isn't far enough away, and go, look, we hear you. We are correcting. We are fit and finish and polish. We're getting back to our roots. It would be lovely to see that, which they did with the MacBook Pro. They went back to their roots, put ports back on it, made it right, and it's been an amazing success. We now need that in the software. Yeah,
but didn't you just look at that revenue graph with me for their wearables and services revenue? Haven't they just started charging however much it is a month for the creative thing?
Yep.
Do you think it's going to get better?
No.
Right.
And on that note, should we do App of the Week?
App of the Week this week is Proton Drive. So Chris and I had a go at this. Obviously, our email for this podcast is a Proton-based email. I've been looking at a couple of their other services, and one of them that I settled on is called Proton Drive. I've been trying their password manager as well, Proton Pass. And 3 weeks ago now, Chris, I think we switched to Proton from Google Drive for the show notes, and I got to say I'm quite impressed with it.
I'm there. I mean, it's a word editing app / docs, whatever you call it. They all look similar, as you said. It's a nice, simple layout. It works every time. They're not pushing anything in my face. I actually quite like it. I'm very comfortable using this.
Yep. You get 5 gigs for free. You can register. They claim to be as secure as they can possibly be. They're a European, if not EU company, because they're based in Switzerland. Apparently, they're looking to move to Iceland because of Switzerland's in privacy laws, so they're going to go to Iceland where it's not quite so bad. I endorse this. I think if they're trying to keep the product secure and not push a load of stuff in my face, which they're not so far, it works quite well. I've been able to share with it. I can do live editing. The spreadsheet software is good as well. Their Drive software is good. I'm quite impressed so far. So yeah, Proton Drive, check it out.
I would concur.
Thing of the week.
So I've put in the Glee Club. I went to a comedy club last night. I haven't been to a comedy club in donkey's years. The Glee Club doesn't seem to be an actual brand of clubs. We were in like a pub's back room that's under the Glee umbrella. But you know what? We had a great time. We had comedians. It was quite informal. Not famous comedians, but just, a bit more raw. But we just had a really nice time. And so I'd recommend it. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's something to check out if there's one near you. Wasn't expensive, about £20 for, an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of entertainment. Can't knock it.
Fair enough. I have been to a Glee Club. I saw Sarah Millican in a Glee Club about 15 years ago, the one in Cardiff, actually. Yeah, okay. They're pretty good, I got to say. It's quite a good night out. You generally see 2 or 3 comedians if you go to a Glee Club proper. Expensive, but what do you expect? You're getting a subsidised comedian. I think I had a Christmas do in one once, actually. They're quite a good venue to go to. Probably quite a British thing, but there will, of course, be equivalents elsewhere. And I didn't know they sort of did a franchising thing out to pubs. That's quite a good idea.
No, I didn't know either, and we were like, we got the right place because we were looking for the Glee Club, but it then transpired it was linked to this pub. But no, just a good night out, and yeah, would recommend.
I'm slightly concerned that there's no upcoming events for the Cardiff one. That doesn't look great, but there you go.
Ooh, yeah, I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, it's disturbing. It's in quite a good place in Cardiff as well. It's in Cardiff Bay, just where all the new pubs and clubs and things are. So there we go.
There you go. That was a Glee Club. So that's the end of the show, I think. So in contact with us, Rod is at G5Maniac at Marston.Scott. I'm on Marston where I'm at _CJP at Marston.Social. Watch on YouTube by going to the website and clicking on the link, or drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
You didn't let me say I think we can call that a show, Chris, but there we go. That's fine. I'll let you off this one time.
Sorry, I was worried we were running a bit long.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.